Welcome to the B2B Growth Blueprint podcast, where we talk with entrepreneurs, founders, and leaders at B2B services, tech, and SaaS companies to learn the systems and processes they've used to create success for their business. We'll also learn from marketing and sales experts to provide insights to help you grow your business. I'm your host, Mark Osborne, and the podcast is brought to you by Modern Revenue Strategies and their 10x ROI B2B growth guarantee. Schedule a free diagnostic call to learn the fastest path to double your B2B revenues in just 90 days. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the B2B Growth Blueprint podcast. I'm your host, Mark Osborne, and today I'm very excited to welcome my guest, Stacy Bishop. Now I'm going to read Stacy's bio to make sure I get this right. She's actually lived at the intersection of banking and financial technologies, or Fintech, since early high school when she began working part-time at Jack Henry while also learning the ropes working at community banks. She spent 25 years in sales and marketing roles, securing over $300 million in revenue through enterprise sales to financial institutions. She has launched banking verticals at 2 different fintech companies and ran channel sales at 2 different organizations. These days, Stacy guides fintech founders in crafting repeatable go-to-market motions and sales strategies so they can sell better, win more, and discount less. So Stacy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Mark. Man, I need more of you in my life. I feel like you can be a hype man for anyone that's on this show. You do that
Run up
so
and down the
well.
stage with the towel, yeah.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation today.
Yeah, me too. So you've obviously been doing this a little bit of time. Tell us a little bit about your story. Like, how did
Yeah.
we talked about in high school that you got kind of started working at community banks. How did that lead to sort of like your career and really what you're doing today?
Yeah, I'm happy to share that with you. So I just for the purposes of giving you all some context, I grew up in this little town in Southwest Missouri. The only important part about that is it happened to be the headquarters for this very large core company in the fintech space, as you mentioned, called Jack Henry. So I like to joke that my career path was mapped out early, working at banks and then working at this large core company serving banks. And after I graduated from college, working at banks, working at Jack Henry in the summer, I started working there full time, teaching the software and then transitioning into sales, where I was that person going out, traveling the country, spending all this time on the road and just showcasing systems that I was proud to represent to these bankers and giving them something to consider. And I did that for many years before taking on leadership roles and ultimately deciding there's a great big world out here in fintech. And to your point, Mark, I stood up a couple of banking verticals. That's my specialty, working with banks, selling to banks, helping other people, as you mentioned, sell to banks in the best possible way. And today, that's working with fintech founders that may have a technical background that sales was not exactly something they were taught. Perhaps not like you and myself growing up in that space. And there's knowledge we can share with those individuals. And that's how I serve today, working with these fintech founders, trying to teach them how to communicate with banks and sell and position to banks. So me in a nutshell.
That's great. Well, and it's such a, sort of self-referential, not, I wouldn't say insular, but definitely it's its own kind of niche and marketplace, the financial services and fintech space, where if you don't understand some of those market dynamics, like you're really kind of out in the cold. And so you have to come to that, with some knowledge and expertise. So I'm sure that a lot of these fintech founders, although they may know how their technology works very well, they may not necessarily understand the environment that they're trying to sell into. So I'm sure that expertise is
Yeah.
really valuable for them.
Well, I hope so. I don't know if you've ever been in a scenario in which you know something so well, inside and out, that you're almost a little too close to it when you try
Yeah.
to tell other people about your baby, about something you love so much.
Yeah.
That is often a scenario that I find these founders get into, and not through any fault of their own. They are
Right.
so in it. They're so intelligent and they know exactly the problems they're solving and how they can help. But when you're so close to it, it's oftentimes difficult to translate that into here's a problem in the market, here's how we solve for it, versus let me just share and dump all the features and functions in your face and you connect the dots. So
Right.
I think that's where some individuals like you and your background, me, we can prove valuable. And if I may, Mark, I don't mean to just dominate the conversation here, but one other thing I would just share is these bankers are typically so traditional. They have a very traditional approach to business. The sales cycles tend to be very lengthy as well. And when you juxtapose that against these fintech founders that are used to going so fast, and they
Yeah.
have investors that expect them to sell and produce revenue so quickly, it can be a recipe for just the perfect storm if you don't have the right type of framing and messaging and expectation set over here on the fintech side for working with the customer segment that you're trying to serve over here. That looks so different than you. I hope that makes sense.
Oh, it makes total sense. And it's something that people don't think about so frequently, but certain industries have sort of a cadence of business. And
Yes.
like we find, when we're crafting, a sales cycle for a particular company, they're like, well, so we do this meeting and then we present this proposal and then they sign. I'm like, well, how long does that take? Well, it should only take like 3 days. Well, but how long does it actually take? We actually were working with a company and they created this great white paper that like had a sort of a calculator to help their prospective clients figure out what would be the return on investment for doing this type of project. And it was a really sort of involved, almost like a workbook type, white paper. And they were set where they were like calling to follow up on it the next day. And I'm like, they haven't
Mm,
had a chance to use it yet. Like you need to give them
right.
some time. And so they changed that follow-up cycle to instead of the next day, they gave them 2 weeks. They followed up in 2 weeks. Suddenly people were ready to talk about it. They had done the
Yeah.
sort of exercises, or they had found out it was more complicated than they thought it was. And now they were ready to talk to an outside expert. So it's understanding that, that time cycle of decision making is really vital for any industry.
It really is. And sometimes you have to slow down to go fast.
That's right.
Truly. You truly, truly do.
That's right.
Love that example.
So you were talking before we kind of started up the show about some of the sort of
Mhm.
big challenges and sort of common mistakes that when you're working with companies, you see them make
Yeah.
as they start to build out the sales function. So, the scenario of fintech company where the founder was able to get some deals, he had enough of a Rolodex to, bring in some clients, and now he's trying to create some scale and grow. Let's talk about some of those, common challenges that you see and
Yeah.
maybe some ways to overcome them. What's one of the big ones that you see companies making that, maybe some of our listeners might be falling prey to?
Yeah, there's three that come to mind that
Okay.
we were visiting before we kicked off. And the first one is something that's so top of mind to me, Mark, because it happens often. And this is where a fintech founder, your investors, your board members, you may have burned through your Rolodex. And now you're wanting to take the next step and start burning through other people's Rolodexes. So you
Yeah.
reach out to people that have connections at with the ICPs that you want to target, or you think they have a number of followers, and you think that you need them to sell and to refer business to you. And I bet, like you and many of the listeners out there, I get several of these outreaches over the course of each week or each month, and I'm always trying to be very empathetic with the situation that folks are in, help where I can. If it's a product or a company I know people often look for formal relationships with myself or with others, but here's what I tell people: you don't need someone like me. You don't need me just making intros to you. Start by doing the work. Start by doing the fundamental elements that are going to help you and any people you bring on in the future, be it people doing referrals for you, 1099 contract workers, actual sales hires. And the work I'm talking about, Mark, it's doing the things like what is the offer? What is the problem we're solving? What are the risks? Why would people say no to our solution? And how do we account for those? How do we solution for those problems and those risks? Package it in such a way that we can have a compelling and impactful conversation. So start with the offer, always. That's always where I like to start. Give some attention to your ICP. Bless you, sir. Give some attention to your ICP because so many times fintech founders I work with think they need to speak to bank CEOs. And you probably do. You need to involve them. They're probably not your ICP. They will likely not be making a decision. There's lots of people involved in a decision. So do that work on the offer, the ICP, your messaging. Make sure you mention the sales cycle. Make sure that that buying journey is mapped out. Just do the fundamental work so that when that's another example of slowing down, getting things right so that you can go fast through a sales process that's going to let you succeed in the long run. I don't know if any of that resonates with you.
Oh, totally. Well, and it's so funny because so often, and especially I see technical founders have this sort of mindset that, sales is it's a personality trait, or it's, something someone's born with. You're a born salesperson. But what I see so often is that, really successful salespeople, especially in early stage companies, are really process driven folks. And they can come in and they can execute against a process. And so it's this misnomer that, oh, I just need someone that's got all of this Rolodex. But Rolodexes run out, but a process never runs out because if they know how to find, qualify, agitate needs, deliver consultative solutions, and then, walk people through that change process of, evaluating and deciding, that's what's scalable and that's what really moves. So it's so crazy that, and I see it too. They sort of I'm looking for someone who's got a Rolodex of CEOs in
Yes.
this industry. And I think you might be one of those people. Let's have a conversation. I'm like,
Yeah.
you really don't want a Rolodex. What you want is someone
Mhm.
that brings those systems and processes. The other mistake that I see, and I'm curious if you see this, is that just as you said, taking the time to really build out, who's your ideal customer, what are the different personas or avatars of decision makers or influencers that'll be part of the buying committee, what's their buyer's journey look like, what do we say to them at each stage, what's a trialable offer. Doing those things is really sort of vital for success for any sales hire because so often,
Yeah.
we'll see someone will say, well, we need our first sales hire. So let's go find the guy who's the SVP at our biggest competitor or the big player in our industry. And surely they'll bring a Rolodex and they'll bring, all of these clients over. But really, that's the wrong way. You got to build all those processes first.
Yes. Oh, you have nailed this. This is something that has been fascinating for me to watch in working with fintech founders. This whole idea, and it's I understand where it comes from, Mark, but this whole idea that we need to sell stuff, so we need to hire CRO and or VP of sales and or these A's, and then we need an SDR team because if we just have these people coming in and creating and building this top of funnel, we are going to land it. And then the truth of the matter is, it's another example of where if we're not doing fundamental work on the marketing side, creating awareness, creating education, you're going to have a lot of salespeople twiddling their thumbs with
Right.
not a lot to do. You're going to have SDRs trying to have conversations with people that don't know who you are. And that's okay. But if you haven't validated product market fit, it's uncomfortable. It is just not a great situation to be in. I mean, you're going to have a lot of AEs that are expecting SDRs to source leads for them that may not have the skill set to source their own. I don't know. There's a lot of full cycle sellers. I've seen a lot of individuals that specialize a bit more mid and down funnel. But to your point, yes, I have seen this repeatedly at organizations I've come into or organizations that I consult with where they spend a great deal of money upfront on sellers. Anybody that needs to hear this or that would benefit from this, I would just like to tell you as an alternative, until you know you have product market fit or your unit economics, your LTV to CAC really drive necessitating sales hires, you're better served to spend money on marketing related, creating awareness, educating the market, building out a site. And when you start seeing those conversions from the website or from your marketing spend and your unit economics support it, that's when you hire those sellers. And that's when you start empowering them with those fundamentals that we've talked about beforehand, before they even get there. You don't want to hire sellers without a playbook, without an ICP, without the buying journey. How does that hit you as far as spending on marketing first versus sales? I know this can be controversial. Where do you
Oh,
stand on that?
so I like you have sort of had the experience in my career of having to sort of be a full cycle, full funnel marketing and sales. And I really,
Yep.
sort of approach it that I think they're inextricably linked. Like you can't be
Mhm.
successful in one without some success in the other, because if
Good
marketing's
point.
generating all of the leads in the world, but there's no one to walk them through the sales process, you're not going to get the revenue. Likewise, if you've got these great
Good point.
salespeople, but they don't have leads coming in, well, then you're not going to be successful either. I do oftentimes find that, companies they go unicorn hunting, I call it, where they want to
Yeah.
find the best seller in the world, who's also the best marketer in the world, who's also the best customer success manager in the world, and expect them to do all of it. But you
Yeah.
need to do it all for commission only, and and a little bit of equity in the company, which
Yeah.
is really the actuality of what happens. But we were talking before about
Yeah.
this idea of, go hire the SVP of the biggest, competitor in the space. So often those people haven't generated leads maybe in their whole career, because maybe they worked for the market leader
Right.
the whole time. They started as an SDR at that market leader, and then they grew into an AE, and then they grew into a manager, and now they're the big dog. But their entire career has been reaping the benefits of a well-oiled marketing process that was
Yep.
creating demand and awareness, and then capturing that demand, and had some lead flow that
Yep.
still needed to be worked. Like these weren't opportunities delivered on a silver platter, but they've never done that front end of that funnel.
Oh my
They're
goodness.
not going to come in and be successful creating that front end of the funnel for a new company.
It is so much easier to sell with a big logo on your back than it
Right.
is to create that type of brand recognition and establish yourself in the market. This is so, so true. That resonates with me specifically. I am curious if I can back you up because I
Yeah.
agree with you on marketing. You have to have marketing so sellers have something to sell, and marketers, you need to have sellers to sell this demand that you've created. I guess what I was curious about, Mark, in your opinion, do you think product-led growth is lends itself more to early marketing hires, fewer sales people or high title sellers? Or are you more in the camp of doesn't matter if it's, product led growth or an enterprise type of play, you need equal amounts of both
Yeah.
early on, I guess.
The way that we approach it. So first, it definitely matters sort of where you are on the sort of growth curve. And
Good
we
point.
see that companies go through the same kind of inflection points. And when you're trying to get that, product market fit, that's really founder led, because the
Mhm.
founder has sort of full visibility into the long-term vision for the product, can actually tell the product team, we need to pivot because the last three conversations I had with clients, they were asking that we go in this direction, and I promised them all we would. So now we're going in that direction. That's something a sales leader just can't do. So
Mhm.
product-led growth or founder-led growth, absolutely at the beginning. And then as you start to sort of create some scale, what we typically do is look at what's the average size of the deal that you're looking to,
Mhm.
sort of capture. Are they, $100 contracts, or are they $100,000 contracts? And then how
Mhm.
many of them are you expecting to capture in a year? Is it tens or is it hundreds? And then what is your sort of margin on each of those that you bring in? Is it very thin or is it, sort of more robust? And
Yeah.
it's those economics of the business that then guides what your go-to-market strategy looks like. And what we see happen sometimes is, companies will sort of look at it and they'll say, well, we have a fairly large sized deal, and we're not looking for too many of them a year. So account-based marketing strategically makes the most sense. We're going to pick a finite number of targets. We're going to assign them to the people, and they're going to go out and work them. But what they find is doesn't generate the results as fast as they wanted it to, and it takes some time to bear fruit. So then they're like, now let's try hiring a bunch of SDRs and AEs that are going to, kind of just go out and cold call and dial folks. But it's
Cold
not
call.
really account-based
Yeah.
marketing because they don't have the time to do the research. So they throw that
Yeah.
spaghetti against the wall and see if that sticks.
Yeah.
And now let's also
Don't forget
build
the
an
mass.
inbound. Yeah. Now let's
Don't
also
forget the
build
mass emails.
a
Yeah.
whole separate inbound thing. And what we see is there's only so many hours in the day, and there's only
Yeah.
so many dollars of resources, and every new go-to-market motion that you add detracts from your focus with the others and detracts from your overall
Yeah.
resources. And so it's the companies that pick a strategic approach and then they crank it out. Even if it doesn't work perfectly for the first, 90 days, they figure out what's wrong with it and they make improvements and they get better over time. And then they figure it out, and their path to real growth is much faster than the folks that try this and then they try this and then they try this. And so they're all distracted.
Yes.
They never break through on any of them.
That resonates with me. I had a company in my career, my past, that I always questioned whether they were giving the strategy enough time, because it was more let's try this for 60 days. Let's try this
Right.
for 60 days. And there was a term in management training that I remember from years ago called slot machine management, where you're just
Huh.
trying something and just hoping to hit the jackpot each time. You just keep pulling. So that is an important point, and I hope that resonates with everyone. Make sure that you pick the strategy, just as Mark said. And it's so brilliant that you mentioned giving it time to truly see if it's going to succeed or fail. And if it's failing, do we need to iterate on it, or do we need to completely pivot? It's so wise.
Well, and
Yeah.
like you say, it could just be an iteration. It doesn't necessarily have to
Yeah.
be, you know, do one thing and one thing only the way that we thought it would work the first day for 90 days. No, every 2 weeks, let's get everyone together and talk about what's working, what's not. How can we improve it? But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater and start from scratch.
Mhm. So true. It's so true.
So
I know we,
obviously,
go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead, sir.
Oh, I was just saying, obviously, we're both really passionate about this. We could talk about it all day, but got to be mindful of your time and sort of the rest of the day.
Well,
So,
thanks.
what's something that's on the horizon for you that you're really excited about?
Yeah, I think for me, selfishly, I just kind of launched a new rebrand landing page. That's totally selfish. But more importantly, um, clients that I'm working with and serving, I'll be at a couple of upcoming events, the Financial Brand Forum in Las Vegas, and then also Finovate Spring. Both fun events connecting fintech founders with banks, and just allowing these individuals to just have conversations, let the interest percolate. And there's always great deals that are inked and just established as a result of this. So those are some things that I think I have kind of on the horizon, more big picture, the way I serve and work with fintech founders. Looking for just all sorts of ways to be of service to people that I work with. So yes, sir. Those are some things that I would mention.
Well, you've obviously got tons of expertise and experience. So, for those in our audience that are working in this financial services or financial technology space and want to sell to some of these, banking institutions and financial services companies and need expertise like yours, give us the pitch. Like, who should reach out to you
Yeah.
and what should they call you for?
I will tell you the best type of service I can provide would be to very technical fintech founders or anyone that has never been taught how to sell. Selling doesn't exactly come naturally to everyone. I get it, but trust me, selling, or at least adopting the process of selling, is something that anyone can learn, anyone can be good at. You just have to remove the expectation that you have to be a certain type of personality or present in a certain way. Everyone can be taught how to help people buy your solution. So technical fintech founders that would like guidance on setting up their go-to-market motions, their strategy, sales practices as well, would likely find some benefit from my solution. If you think that our personalities can jive, I understand that, everyone has differences as far as who they wish to work with, but I help individuals with fractional work, also with one-on-one coaching, workshops, speaking gigs as well, SKOs. So whole variety of things right now, Mark. I appreciate you asking, but I'm a bit boring. If you want to look me up on LinkedIn, I am Stacy Bishop, Stacy. My parents were not super creative. I'm a basic CY Bishop, Bishop. I also have, as I mentioned, that new landing page, so you can check out www.stacybishop.com.
Awesome. Well, Stacy, thanks so much for taking the time to join us today. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too. Me too. Well, I appreciate you, Mark. Thanks so much for having me, and I will continue to be an avid listener.
Talk to you soon. Thank you for joining this episode of the B2B Growth Blueprint podcast. We hope you've gained insights to grow your business. If you enjoyed this discussion, please rate, comment, like on your favorite platform, and share to others who will find it useful. Do you know a CEO, founder, or leader at an early stage B2B services, tech, or SaaS company who would like to be a guest and share their story? Send us a note. Let's schedule a conversation.